Prince Andrew back in the headlines, bracing for a nightmare new year after a US judge ruled unheard evidence relating to grope allegations made against him can be released. The 40 documents could reveal more details of the Duke's encounters with Johanna Sjoberg, who claims the prince groped her breasts at Jeffrey Epstein's New York home in 2001. The documents will be made public in just 2 weeks' time, alongside hundreds of other files, revealing the names of more than 170 people who were associates, friends or victims of billionaire paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew has denied all allegations made against him. Joining me now is talkTV's royal commentator Rupert Bell and former royal editor at The Sun, Charlie Ray. Thank you both very much indeed for joining me. Let's talk to Rupert first about this. Rupert, I think people hoped, as I'm certain that Prince Andrew hoped, that there wasn't much more to this story and that having paid millions of pounds of his mother's money for this story to go away, it would have gone away. But somehow, here it is back again. So what has happened to reinvigorate and give new life and possible new developments to what feels to many like an old story?
Well, it may be an old story, but there's been so many sort of allegations around and issues surrounding Jeffrey Epstein that there's always a danger that yet more revelations would appear. Well, clearly, following these this revelations yesterday, we now know there are, and this is always has been the problem for Prince Andrew. Ever since he made this settlement of $12 million to Virginia Giuffre, and given all the problems around the sort of the Jeffrey Epstein case, there was always a possibility that the Duke of York could be brought back into it. And that's exactly what's happened. And it was always going to be an area that the royal family were going to be feeling vulnerable from. And in particular, Prince Andrew, by his links with Jeffrey Epstein, has caused yet more sort of anxiety for members of the royal family as he's drawn back into this scandal.
Let's bring Charlie in. Charlie, watching this from your vantage point, I mean, you've been a royal expert now for so many years. You've got a very senior view on this kind of thing in terms of your experience of royal stories. So how significant a development do you think this is? What is the kind of case scenario that we're looking at possibly unfolding here?
Well, it's a huge development, and it as you quite rightly described, it's a huge nightmare as well for Prince Andrew, because this was never going to go away. And the very fact that this judge has ordered the release of 177 names. Now, some of these names, we will be shocked at the importance or the notoriety of these people, the famousness of these people. But if Prince Andrew thinks that he can escape somehow and hide among those names, he's got another thing coming, because he is one of the biggest names in this whole scenario. And as you rightly say, he's denied everything. But this lady, Johanna Sjoberg, there are going to be more documents in her relationship with Prince Andrew. She's already accused him of groping her breast. And I have to say that she herself said that of her own volition, she sat on Andrew's lap. And when he grabbed her breasts, it was done in a jokey manner. I'm not trying to belittle the girl or say that that was right or anything like that, but that's what she is saying. It'll be interesting to see what the actual documents now say about all this. And I'm afraid Andrew is in for a very, very uncomfortable ride in the new year.
And Charlie, people might wonder, therefore, what did the £12 million buy? If he's up for, you know, a closer examination, possible court case and everything else now, what did the money do? What was the point of paying it?
Well, remember, this is a money he paid to a woman who he claims he never met. So what you have to ask, why do you pay money, some £12 million to a woman who you claim you never met? What the money bought was the fact that he did not have to stand up in a court and defend himself. And that's what he bought. But realistically, this was, as Rupert has said, this is never going to go away. This is going to hang around him forever and ever.
And Rupert, of course, there's not one, but two cinematic versions of the notorious or infamous or whatever adjective you want to give it, Emily Maitlis interview with Prince Andrew in the offing, one of them starring Gillian Anderson as Emily Maitlis. And you just think, gosh, what fresh hell is this for Prince Andrew to watch the whole thing twice over? Just think of all the articles that are going to be written. Just think of all the comments that are going to be made. It really is, as Charlie quite rightly says, it's going to be endless. It's never going to stop, is it?
Yes, but it all comes from the fact that he thought this was a very sensible thing to do. He felt that this would clear his name and once and for all put everything behind him. But actually what it did, it just opened up a can of worms, and away we've gone. And he's never been able to put the lid back on. And that's the problem for him. He got himself in this situation. Maybe his arrogance, his belief that he could ride this storm out. Well, it's not going to happen. And it's only get worse. And Charlie's quite right. Once we know the names and who he was possibly around at the same time, it's only going to compound his situation. And as you say, to cough up $12 million for someone you've never met, why did he do it? And once again, he could find himself back in a court situation. And that's the last thing he wants. It's the last thing the royal family want. But unfortunately, it's all of his own doing.
Charlie, it has been said that the king has a soft spot for his brother. I suppose many of us do have soft spots for our siblings, and that is why Andrew has continued to be allowed to occupy the large, well, voluminous, really, isn't it, mansion in which he continues to live with his ex-wife, Fergie, the former Duchess of York. I understand it's got 52 bedrooms or something. The two of them are rattling around in there. And he's saying, Prince Andrew's saying he doesn't want to leave it. And so far he's been allowed to continue living in it. Do you think that's the kind of situation that's going to continue?
Yes, I do, for as long as Andrew can afford to pay for the running costs, which are about £2 million a year. That is the deal. And yes, he will stay there because that's all he's got. He hasn't got anything else. The king, he has got a soft spot for his brother, as he has for the other members of the family, but he's made it quite clear to Andrew he's never going to be a representative on the world stage again, representing the royal family. He'll be seen at private events. It'll be interesting because he's going to go to Sandringham this year with Fergie. They're going to be at the big house having the Christmas dinner. And I would be very, very surprised if we actually see Andrew in a public situation. I cannot believe he will be allowed or will have the brass neck to take part in the annual royal walkabout because they cannot afford people in that crowd to sort of criticise him for what he's been doing, allegedly.
And Rupert, you know, lots of people still remember John Profumo and the Christine Keeler scandal and how John Profumo rehabilitated himself afterwards. After the scandal, he began doing, didn't he, a great deal of work among people who were suffering poverty and privation in the East End of London. And he worked and he did it pretty much anonymously. And after years, people started to think, well, actually, you know, he really has made amends. He's helped people who needed help. He hasn't sought glory or fame or any other thing. He's just tried to slog along, help as many people as he can, and he managed to sort of claw back at least some of his good name. But we don't really see or hear anything like that from Prince Andrew, do we?
Well, no, but he's got to just find a way of reconnecting. But at the moment, while these allegations come about, there is no chance. But we have seen, you know, the Queen Camilla, she has managed to get herself from a position of being seen as the wicked stepmother is now suddenly in a position where she has turned it round. And we're talking about Prince Harry. Can he turn it round long term? But the Sussexes are basically a soap opera with a family divided, and around that it's a different dynamic. But these are serious allegations, and until he can actually clear his name of any of these allegations, he has absolutely no chance of being back in the royal fold in a sort of fully working capacity, whatever direction he chooses to go in.
But I'm wondering, Charlie, about, you know, Prince Andrew's life. You know, he wakes up in the morning and ... What happens next? He wakes up and what does he do? Who does he see? He's not an old man. He's in his very early 60s. You know, he could have years and years of healthy life left. You just wonder, what does he actually do? And maybe if you were advising him, Charlie, what you might say he either should or could do, just to you know, live out his life in a way that is seen to be a kind of worthwhile way rather than a complete waste of time.
Well, he's gone too far at the moment for anybody to give him any good advice. I mean, he gets up in the morning, he sits on his sofa, he has a few meetings. What those are, I'm not terribly sure because he's not doing anything. And he goes horse riding in Windsor Great Park. I mean, it was interesting you mentioned John Profumo, because let's not forget that when the Virginia Giuffre case was settled for that amount of money, in his statement, he said he wanted to try and help work for a charity fought against sex trafficking.
Exactly.
Well, there isn't a charity in the world that's going to take him on in that case.
Even as in a kind of anonymous type capacity where he just simply volunteers and works quietly and, you know, doesn't seem to be on the board or a patron or any kind of glory, you know, just where he actually works. You don't think they'd allow it?
That's my point. John Pertumo, when he did it, nobody knew about it. It didn't come out for years and years and years.
Yes.
Andrew needs to do something like that and try and work his way back again. But even so, Vanessa, we are talking about terrible sex allegations against a prince of the country. I can't see anything that will solve that matter that would see him again to be seen as a worthwhile person in the eyes of the public of this country.
It really does look like it's going to be injected with publicity and sunlight, and it's going to go on and on and on, and we'll see what happens. Let's talk now about the Duchess of Sussex. This is an altogether different sort of story because she's appearing in an ad. Rupert, have you seen it? Can you describe the ad to us?
Yes, I think it's for a coffee brand that, if I'm not mistaken, that Meghan has invested in. And it's a sort of Instagram video where you've got Meghan in various things, stages off, and you can see her in the background doing little bits behind the scenes as the CEO, I think, is explaining just what a fantastic year is. And at the end of it, she sort of has a handshake as she exits and has a smile, but it's showing her, I suppose, she was thought, well, this is, I am involved. And there is the moment she takes a cup of coffee, and now she then leaves, shakes hands and walks through the shot at the end. And you go, oh, well, it's all very cheesy, all very nice. And I suppose it will draw eyeballs onto and quite rightly so, onto the product. So from Meghan's point of view, it's something she used to do. The use of social media, she was very effective at before. And even the fact that she's an extra behind the scenes has certainly given a great deal of focus to the product that's promoting. So you have to say, job done.
Absolutely. And Charlie, you might say that this is quite unusual in terms of Meghan not being centre stage, not, you know, safeguarding her image very, very ferociously. She's the person in the background. She's the person that's the dog's body. She's kind of turning the normal expectation on its head in a way. Maybe that's an attractive thing, self-deprecating.
I don't know. This is what she's doing. She's helping this company. It's called the deliberately misspelt clever blends of coffee, and she's invested a reasonable sum of money in it, and she wants to see its success. And they asked her to take part in it, and there's a little cameo role. That's fine. It's her first acting job, really, since the heyday of her being in that Suits drama. And yeah, I've got no objections to her doing this. She's quite free to do it, and she's helping one of the companies that she herself has got money involved in it.
Let's now talk about Mike Tindle. Now, Mike Tindle, I think people think is a jolly good egg. He's married to Zara Phillips. I think you're very familiar with the couple. He did I'm a Celebrity. He was in The Jungle and everybody loved him. He was a likeable fellow. He was good fun. He seemed to be very grounded. And in fact, we can hear what Mike Tindle had to say.
For the Prince of Wales, he is known as One Pipe Willie. He is known to me as One Pipe Willie because he's not the best of drinkers, coming from a sport where it's built on the social aspect and a couple of beers being sunk quite often. So yeah, that is one that I will definitely give away for the Prince of Wales. One Pint Willie. There you go. It's out there now. Sorry, sorry, sir.
I think most of us have not heard that nickname for the Prince of Wales, One Pipe Willie. Rupert, are you surprised by that? Had you heard rumours that he wasn't the last of the red hot drinkers?
I certainly heard rumours that he wasn't going to be the leading from the front, but Mike Tindle and his rugby background, he's a cheeky chappy, Mike Tindle, and clearly his podcasts that he does are sort of quite interesting. He just always gives away a little bit of information, never oversteps the mark. And actually, you know, for the future king to have that nickname, it's a bit of fun. And clearly, you can see from the reaction, Zara thinks it's funny. It's probably when they're sitting around the table. We probably all got family members who we know in similar circumstances. You have one drink, and then that's all they can manage. But you know, given his lifestyle, it's quite hard for members of the royal family to avoid sort of well, in a sense, needing to get up in a hangover because it's the last thing you probably want. But maybe at Christmas he might be allowed to have 2 pints.
Charlie Ray, I mean, this is all quite jolly stuff. Mike Tindle seems to be, as far as I can see, quite a good judge of the little kind of tidbits of information to let slip. And he managed to be sort of revelatory but discreet at the same time, and also kind of genial and good-humoured about everything. So the little bit of information only makes us feel more fond of Prince William than we did before.
I think this is brilliant. This is Rob Burrows. Now, Rob Burrows is the former Leeds Rhino player who suffers from MND, and he's got a podcast called Seven, in which he interviews various sporting legends. And this time it's Mike Tindle and, of course, Zara Phillips, who's a sporting legend in her own right. And it's a really great listen. And I think Mike Tindle always has, you know, a good thing. He's got his own podcast where he comes out with some really good stuff. And I think this is great that we now know that the Prince of Wales is known as 1 Pint Willie, and that Mike and Zara call each other munchkins. And I just think it's great fun. And, you know, nobody could take offence at this. Certainly no one in the royal family will take offence at it. And well done, Rob Burrows, for getting these sort of people on his podcast.
Here. And Charlie, if we were going to give you a similar title, how many pints Charlie would you be?
I'm teetotal, Vanessa.
So no pints, Charlie. Zero pints, Charlie.
No pints, Charlie.
And Rupert, obviously friend and colleague extraordinaire here at talkTV. How many pints, Rupert, would you be?
In my capacity working for TalkSport, I've often been known as the Malbec Monster, so I'll leave it at that.
And I'm not going to reveal, since neither of you thought to ask me, I don't have to answer the question, so that is good. Let us move swiftly on and say thank you, gentlemen, both very much.
Pleasure.
Really great to see you.